Sudokoo is a new PC cooling brand that you might not have heard of, and to tell the truth, when the company reached out to us to ask if we could review one of their coolers, I'd not heard of them either. The company says it sources its hardware from a well-known OEM based in Taiwan, and it's aiming at the premium market with its first 360mm AIO, the Proteus 360. We've got our hands on the Proteus 360 AIO. In this review we'll find out if it's worth the £260 price tag or if it's all just a bit of a puzzle. So this is the Sudokoo Proteus 360. I apologise if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. So this comes with an MSRP price of $259.99 US. It should be available shortly in the UK via Amazon UK, priced at £259.99. According to Sudokoo, the Proteus 360 is a revolutionary cooling system with its customizable LCD screen that can display personalised videos, animated GIFs or real-time system information. The Proteus 360 is equipped with a 3.4-inch LCD with 480 by 480 resolution, housed in a rotatable pump cap with high precision pogo pin contacts for quick tool-free adjustment. The high performance fans included with the Proteus 360 are 30mm thick with PWM speed range up to 2,500 RPM, controlled by the included Sudokoo linker hub and Mastercraft software. So it comes semi pre-assembled out of the box. You can see the fans are attached to some trims on the fans that hide or manage cables, and there's the Sudokoo linker hub that's just magnetic and it just attaches to the side of the cooler or the side of the radiator. You can have it either this way or this way around. The actual LCD screen, that is a separate unit and it just clips onto the top of the cooler. I actually like this brushed aluminium on the top of here. It's a shame that that's covered up, but you can just clip that on magnetically, and there are some pogo pin contacts there precisely positioned, so there should be no issues with this not connecting correctly. And you can also switch the orientation of this as well. It's 360-degree rotation, so whichever way you have this positioned in your system, you should be able to rotate that top cover and the LCD screen will be in the correct orientation. The radiator is an aluminium core. It's a standard 27mm thick radiator. Comes with the fans pre-installed and these plastic covers on the top of the fans or the edge of the fans. They're just to hide the cables. The cables for the fans are daisy chained to each other, so it keeps it looking pretty neat and tidy, and then these just cover it up, so it's quite a tidy looking unit when it comes out of the box. One thing to mention about these are just made from plastic, but they have kind of a gunmetal colour or gunmetal finish to them. But you have to be extremely careful when you take those off and put them back on, because you can trap wires in there and damage them. Whether that was done before I received it or whether I've done that myself, I'm not sure, because I wasn't paying too much attention to begin with, but that is something to look out for. On the other side, there's another one of these plastic covers, but this one actually has some RGB lighting integrated into it. I spin it around the other way so it's the correct way. We can also see the Sudokoo logo on there, but this does illuminate with RGB lighting and it can be configured using the Sudokoo Mastercraft software. One thing I did notice about this radiator is the coating on it is quite rough. It's not a smooth coating, it has kind of a textured feel to it, but it does look quite rough. I wouldn't say it's a premium finish. In fact, it's a bit disappointing considering the price at £260 or £260 more or less. You also get a couple of these little logo plates on here. These are brushed aluminium or brushed stainless steel or brushed stainless steel effect. There's one on either side of the radiator. The radiator is a standard 27mm thickness. At the end tank where the tubes go into the radiator, they're fixed in position, so there's no rotation or movement on those. You can see where the tubes actually enter the radiator, there's some covers on there. They're also kind of a gunmetal colour or gunmetal finish. The dimensions of the radiator are 402 by 123 by 27mm. Tubing length is 410mm. It's a rubber tubing and it's covered with a braided sleeving. I've said this before, we used to think of the braiding as a premium feature. Not so much nowadays. More or less every AIO cooler comes with some form of braided sleeving on the tubing. There's also a couple of clips that hold the tubes together and also allow one of the cables to run up the center of there and kind of just neaten it up a little, although it doesn't look super neat compared to some other coolers where the cable actually runs up the braiding, which I think looks a lot neater than this. You notice at the CPU block side there are rotary 90-degree fittings, and again they have those covers on there with the gunmetal finish or the gunmetal effect. At the base of the CPU block or the pump is a microskived copper cold plate. It does come with thermal compound pre-applied, but I just removed that because I've already done the thermal testing and installed it a few times. And then you can see the mounting points at the base there for the mounting brackets. Comes with no mounting bracket pre-installed, so you have to install the AMD bracket if you're installing on an AMD platform, or Intel brackets if you want to install this on an Intel desktop platform. As I say, the screen is separate. This is a 3.4 inch LCD TFT screen with 480 by 480 resolution. Warranty wise, you get 5 years warranty with the cooling hardware, but only 1 year warranty with the screen. The pump speed is 2,500 to 3,600 RPM, and it connects directly to this hub, but it is PWM control, so you've got full PWM control of the pump speed, and again that is controlled using the Sudokoo Mastercraft software. The fans don't have any RGB lighting, they're just a standard plain black fan. They have 9 blades with quite a severe curve to the blades, so they should be pretty good for high static pressure. There's also anti-vibration rubber mounts on all the mounting points for the fans, and the fans come pre-installed to the radiator, which is fine as long as you want to have the fans installed on this side of the radiator. It is possible to change the orientation to the opposite side if you want to run a pull configuration rather than a push configuration. And they come with these plastic clips on there, which hides cables and does make it look a little neater. I'll just pop this other plastic cover back on just to show you how it goes. So you just need to make sure that you hold all the wiring in place there and don't allow this wiring to go over the side. It's best to have the hub in position there as well because it holds the cables a little better. And then it just should be quite simple to clip this back in position. Make sure this bit of wire here is coming through the little notch in that, and then it just pushes into position there. So if you are careful and you watch what you're doing, you shouldn't damage any of the cables.
With 20 years of PC manufacturing experience, CyberPower PC are the best in the business. With the largest range of parts available in the UK, our team of experienced builders will expertly build and test each system to be delivered to you the very next day. Check out cyberpowersystem.co.uk.
So the hub has a few connections to it too. So there's a USB and power, so power to a SATA power from your power supply, and this also goes to a USB 2 header on the motherboard, which is how this talks to the PC and allows you to control the different options with this software. There's also a fan and ARGB in connection, so that's to connect the CPU fan header, and a 5V ARGB connection, and it allows you in the software to synchronize the fan speed with the motherboard and allows you to read the speed using motherboard software and control the RGB lighting using motherboard software. Fan speed is 500 to 2,500 RPM, PWM controlled, and it has a 0 RPM mode below 5% PWM duty cycle. Maximum airflow is 91.1 cubic feet per minute. Max air pressure is 4.5 millimeter H2O. They have a maximum noise output of 37.7 decibels and a hybrid hydraulic bearing. Proteus 360 is compatible with all current Intel and AMD desktop platforms, so AMD, AM4, AM5, etc., and Intel LJ 1851, 1700, 1200, 115X. It comes with all the mounting hardware for both of those platforms. So upper mounting brackets for AMD platforms, upper mounted brackets for Intel sockets, standoffs for AMD, AM4, AM5, standoffs for Intel installation, an Intel specific backplate, thumb screws for mounting the CPU block, Phillips head screws for mounting the radiator in the case, and then power, RGB and fan extension cables, and one additional tubing clip. So in the documentation that came with the cooler, it says that the product is proudly engineered in Singapore and built by a top OEM in Taiwan. So when I started looking at this cooler, I was trying to work out for myself which OEM it was. I actually reached out to Sudokoo and they clarified some things about the fans, but they were a little hesitant to release the information on who the actual OEM is for the cooling hardware, so the pump and the radiator, etc. So I wanted to try and find out for myself, or work it out for myself, because it looked quite familiar when I first took it out of the box and started having a look at it. And it turns out that it is very similar to a deep cool cooler. So this is the Sudokoo Proteus 360 and this is the deep cool Mystique 360. Some of the features look very similar. So where the tubes enter the CPU block, those look very similar with these covers on the tubing, the angle that they go in at. The only difference really is these have the deep cool logo on and these don't. If you look at the base of the cooler and the cold plate, you can see there's some very similar resemblances there. The shape of the cold plate is very similar. The mounting points are the same. There's even a warranty sticker or some kind of anti-tamper sticker there that's in the same position. There's some other similarities. So at the radiator side again, the tubing is fixed in position. Tubing length looks more or less identical. The braiding on the sleeving looks identical. Where the tubes enter the radiator, they've got those same covers on. The shape of the radiator is also very similar. You notice on the top corner here, you can see the anti-leak solution that Deep Cool puts into its radiators. This is just covers up by a rubber cover on the Sudokoo cooler. So radiator, there's some similarities there. The shape of the radiator is very similar. These cutouts on the tanks and things like that also look very similar. The only difference I did notice between the two radiators is the black coating that's on these two radiators. So the Deep Cool one looks really smooth and good quality finish. However, this Sudokoo one, it's a lot rougher. So I actually prefer the finish on the Deep Cool. It looks smoother and it looks a bit more premium. There's not a lot of differences between the actual cooling hardware, the radiator and the pumps. Internally, I've not looked at the pumps, but I suspect they will be very similar internally. So potentially this is just a Deep Cool rebranded cooler with some different fans on, but you can also see that the fans have some similar features, such as the anti-vibration rubbers. They have the same little patterns on those there. There are some differences with the fans. The Sudokoo ones are 30mm thick. These are just 25mm on the Deep Cool ones. And the RPM, the maximum RPM, is higher on the Sudokoo Proteus 360 fans. So maybe we'll see a little better performance with this compared to the Deep Cool. So that's a quick look at some of the features and specifications of the Sudokoo Proteus 360. If you want to check out the full specifications, see more details of the cooler, there will be a full written review page over at kitguru.net. So if you want to check that out, head over there and take a look. Let's now have a look at the installation process and check out the thermal performance. Since our current test system uses an AMD Ryzen 9 9950X, we'll quickly run you through the installation process on AM5 and AM4 platforms. Intel installation is very similar, just uses a different backplate and standoffs. So first select the required upper mounting brackets and fasten them to the base of the CPU block using the provided countersunk Phillips head screws. At this point you can also connect up some of the cables to the hub, such as the power cable, extra RGB cable from the radiator trim panel. Next, remove the stock AMD plastic upper mounting brackets from the motherboard, as these are not needed. Screw the 4 AMD specific standoffs to the stock AMD AM5 backplate. Tightening by hand should be fine. Now lower the CPU block over the CPU and align the mounting bracket screw holes with the standoff threads. With the block in place, you can now fasten it down in position using the thumb screws. Make sure you tighten the screws evenly and progressively in an X pattern, working from opposite corners until they are fully tight. Final tightening can be done using a Phillips screwdriver. Mount the radiator in your case, and that's all the cooling hardware installed. Connect the fan stroke RGB in cable to the hub. This could have been done at the beginning too. Now connect the other end of the CPU fan in cable to the motherboard CPU fan header and connect the RGB cable to the motherboard 3-pin 5V ARGB header. All that's left to do now is connect the power cable from the hub to a spare SATA power cable and connect the other cable from the hub to a USB 2 motherboard header, and that's the installation complete. So installing the cooler into your system, it is pretty simple. The cooling hardware, installing the block, that's really quick. Install the standoffs and just bolt it in place. It's very simple. It comes with pre-applied thermal compound, so it fits the first time installation. There's no need to apply additional thermal compound. The wiring, it's reasonably simple because some of the wiring is pre-routed, so the fan cables are all pre-routed as long as you are using the fans on this side of the radiator, and some of the cables are pre-managed and pre-routed and connected to the hub. So installation is pretty simple. There's also some software to install. No issues during the installation, and using it again is quite simple. It's easy to find the different sections, such as the setup for the LCD, adjust the fan speed, the pump speed. There's several presets you can use, or you can adjust fan speeds manually. You can also adjust the RGB lighting in there. There's a few preset configurations for the RGB lighting, or you can just set it to a static color of your choice. The only issue I found during the installation was with the fan hub. The magnets that hold it to the radiator are not particularly strong, and sometimes I'd noticed that I accidentally knocked it off and it was just dangling. But other than that, it's quite an easy and quick installation process. You should have this installed in between 15-20 minutes tops.
If you're looking for a new chair, then definitely go and check out boolies.co.uk. They offer a whole host of gaming and office chairs that come in a variety of different finishes and different colours.
So on to the important stuff, the thermal performance and noise output. It's the usual thermal test. If you want to check out our full testing methodology, make sure you head over to our website at kitguru.net. All the testing methodology is there on the written review page for the Sudokoo Proteus 360. First, let's look at the noise output, as this gives us a good indication of thermal performance based on noise. It's no surprise that the Sudokoo Proteus is one of the louder coolers at max fan speed, since its 30mm thick fans are running at 2500 RPM, which makes it 2 decibels louder than the Deepcool Mystique 360 and a huge 12 decibels louder than the quietest cooler at max speed, the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3. However, all this noise and high fan speed doesn't translate into blistering thermal performance. In fact, the Proteus 360 at max fan speed has identical performance to the Deepcool Mystique 360 and the Montech Hyperflow ARGB at 60 degrees C over ambient. But both of these coolers have a max fan speed at around 300 to 350 RPM lower than the Sudokoo cooler. Reducing the fan speed to 40 decibels noise output puts everything on a level playing field, and the true thermal performance is seen. In this configuration, the Proteus 360 again matches the performance of the Deepcool Mystique 360 at 64 degrees C over ambient, which looks low in the chart, but it's actually only 3 degrees C off the top performing cooler. So the noise normalized performance is solid, but it's not chart topping. In the PBO test, the important metric is clock speed, as the CPU automatically adjusts frequency based on maintaining a target temperature. Again, the Sudokoo Proteus 360 performance mirrors the Deepcool Mystique 360 with an average clock multiplier of 52.2 and 66 degrees C over ambient average temperature, while cooling 255 watt CPU package power. This might look low in the chart, but it's only 100 megahertz frequency off the best, so it's again solid performance, but nothing special considering the almost £260 price tag. So it's an interesting one, this Sudokoo Proteus 360. It's quite highly priced at £260, which puts it about £100 more than the equivalent Deepcool, the Mystique 360. It's got a very similar style and similar size screen to it, although this one you can manually rotate the screen. It has a few extras compared with the Mystique, like the hub and the trims that go along the fans, but basically it's a very similar cooler to that, and it's £100 more, so that's something to think about if you are interested in buying this cooler. In terms of the build quality, very similar to the Deepcool cooler. The only thing I did notice in terms of difference between the build quality of the Sudokoo versus the Deepcool cooler is the coating on the radiator. For some reason, this looks a bit rougher than the Deepcool cooler, so I'd say the Deepcool one looks a little better in terms of the finish on the radiator. The screen looks good. It's got decent thermal performance. It's not chart topping, but it's not far off some of the best coolers we've tested so far on this 9950X. However, fan speed is high, which means it is quite loud, 55 decibels at maximum fan speed, which puts it significantly louder than some of the quieter coolers like the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3, and a couple of decibels louder even than the Deep Cool cooler, which it is very similar to. So overall, it's not a bad cooler. The thermal performance is okay. It's a bit loud, but that price just puts it for me a bit out of reach when you've got other very similar coolers that are a lot cheaper than the Sudokoo Proteus 360. So that's the Sudokoo Proteus 360. Let me know what you think of this cooler in the comment section. If you've enjoyed watching this review, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button on YouTube and subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. If you enjoy what we do here at Kit Guru, you want to help support us, you could always head over to the store and pick up some of our merch, or you could even subscribe to our Patreon. And as always, if you want to catch up on all the in-depth technical reviews, head over to the website.